Welcome back to the Total Focus podcast. I'm your host, Paul. Our special guest this week is Jade Eilers. She is the current Ms. Ohio High School America 2020. She is currently going to school promoting her platform of preventing young kids and adults from vaping and doing drugs. And because of her positive and knowledge, she has been invited and has already spoken at the United Nations. This young lady has only started her journey, and she's learned so much in her short life that you're going to be absolutely blown away. At 16, she's already spoken at the United Nations, and she has multiple state titles. Jade is an incredible person. Stay tuned. And welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, it's a pleasure to have you on the show, Jade. One of the things that I like about this show is I get to interview people all over the country, especially people I haven't had even the opportunity to photograph or work together with or collaborate with. And you came up on my Facebook as someone new to talk to, and I honestly love the collegiate pageant. So I was interested to know more about your experiences and where you're going. You have a high school title, correct? So,
Yes.
What's the age range in that title?
So I believe since it's more like school grade focused, it depends on what grade you're in. So I'd say freshmen in high school to juniors in high school are eligible to compete. So
Gotcha.
probably anywhere from like 14 to 17, I'd say.
So it's like some teen, but it could go into Ms. too.
Yes. Well, my division, it's more like the teen, but I think Miss would be more the collegiate.
Gotcha. Well, how did you get into pageants?
Yeah, so actually, my mom did pageants back in her day. She was Mrs. Ohio. I'm from Ohio. In 2001, and then when I was around like 8 years old, she would coach girls, but she would never let me do pageants. And so I would always like do like talent shows, stuff to try to fill my pageant void. But I just like looked at her one day and I was like, Mama, how can you support other girls' dreams and not mine? And so then she was like, "Oop, okay, I'm gonna let you do a pageant."
Well, especially when she was a former Miss Ohio,
Yes,
I mean,
yeah.
does that put a lot of pressure on you to have a mom who's been so successful in this state?
I think it's not pressure, but I think it's just like motivation. I know at the end of the day, it's all for fun and also to spread my message that I am so proud of. But I think that having my mom who is experienced just helps. But I just try to make her proud.
Well, I'm sure any good child wants to make their mom proud. So, I
Yeah.
mean, it sounds like you're on the path to becoming Miss Ohio yourself. So,
Mhm.
um, is now does she have a title with America or Miss US or USA? Is that where Miss
It
Ohio?
was the United States pageant.
Oh, awesome! That's awesome.
Mhm.
So, do you ever see yourself competing in that system then?
I have before, but I really like the Miss High School America organization. That's my favorite right now, and hopefully I'll be able to be Miss High School America.
Well, I mean, my friends that have competed in the system, they rave about how cool it is. Now,
hmm
for a while their nationals was in Orlando, but I've heard that they've moved it to Arkansas. Is that right?
I think the High School America system, it was in San Antonio, Texas, I believe, and now
Okay.
it's in Little Rock, Arkansas.
Okay.
But I know a lot of pageant nationals are in Florida, which can always be fun.
Oh yeah, yeah. Are you excited to go to Arkansas? Or have you
Oh,
been
I
there?
am so excited. I've actually never been there, but the one thing that I love to do is like travel. And so I'm 16 right now, and I've been to 16 different states. And so my birthday is in May, and so nationals are in June, and I doubt I'll be traveling anytime between then. So Arkansas will be my 17th state in 17 years. So I think that's kind of cool.
Do you have one of those scratch off travel maps that you can start scratching off? I have one. I have a world map and I have a United States one. So,
Hmm. I
um,
would love to have one of those.
oh yeah. Well, seeing that we're all stuck in the, you could make that as an art craft day and make one yourself.
Ooh, true.
I know. Just to have, got to do something while you're twiddling your thumbs.
For real. Yeah.
Well, how did you get? So, mom is, um, basically a lineage. She, it's basically passed down, but she did encourage you to do it right away. But what was your
Mhm.
first pageant that you actually competed in? How did you do?
So funny story. I went in there and I was like, my mom is Miss Ohio, so I got this in a bag, right? Like 8-year-old self, full of sass. There were 3 contestants in my age division, and I got dead last. I just went in there and I strutted my stuff, and it was too much. But it was like a little sunburst prelim pageant. My mom just wanted me to get like a little bit of experience before I did something bigger. But I got dead last, and I think that was like the humbling that I needed to actually like put in the work and practice. So yeah,
Do you think
but
that if your mom wasn't a former Miss Ohio, that you would have done pageants? Do you feel that that calling that you want to do pageants?
um, I think that pageantry for people who like don't have a direct connection seems like something that is so far away. Because I know since I have my direct connection to pageants, it's always been seen as something that is like achievable. But I think for people who like don't really know, like don't have like a gateway into pageantry, it's very difficult to get into. If you like don't if you're starting from ground zero. So I think that definitely having my mom has helped me like with my pageant career. I'm really big into theater, so I probably would have just done stuff with that. I love to like get all dolled up, but if my mom hadn't done pageants, I'm not sure I would have gotten involved, just because I wouldn't have like known what to do or like how to start.
Now, does is there a talent portion in this competition?
No, there's not.
No, there's
So
not. Okay.
for this pageant, it's evening gown, fashion runway, and interview.
Okay. So, I
Hmm.
mean, do you like competing in a pageant where there isn't a talent, or do you, because you had mentioned that you like singing? Is singing a passion then?
Um, in the theater world, I'm more on the acting side of things.
Okay.
I like to sing in my car, but on stage, I typically like to just act. I think my favorite part about pageantry, though, is the interview portion. So whether a pageant has a talent or not, I think that I kind of like it without talent just because I want it to be about my message, not my ability to perform on a stage.
Are you excited the way that some of the pageants are going, like Miss America, where they're not focusing on the talent, but the overall speaking ability and more who you are?
I definitely like the removal of the swimsuit competition because I think that it empowers some people, but I know it's kept a lot of people out of pageantry. And so I think that the main thing when you are a title holder is to be a spokesmodel for that system. And so I think that you don't necessarily need to be able to model a bikini to be a spokesperson. I think it should be about what you have to say. So I definitely like when pageant systems make it more about who you are as a person and not what you have the ability to do or what you look like.
I mean, you're right. I mean, when does anyone walk around in a bikini when you have the title? Um,
Yeah, yeah.
I totally agree that fitness should play a role, but I think
Hmm.
I think the way you hold yourself and the way you talk to people in public or do an interview is way better to judge a person than based on something so
Hmm.
fleeting.
For sure.
Sadly, we all get old and fat, so this is
I know, and especially with this quarantine, I cannot stop stress eating. Oh my goodness.
Well, how are you dealing with it being a pageant contestant and having a pageant that's very, very soon on the horizon? I mean, you said
Hmm.
June, right? So
Yes.
that's not far away. So how's your mindset? Like, how do you prepare for something like this? And such a interesting dilemma that we're all in.
Yeah, so it's at the end of June, so there's like a little bit more wiggle room, but excuse me. I definitely am still trying to do as much as I can. So I am a person who is always go 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 and always looking towards the next thing and planning the next thing. So with my schedule being wiped away, I'm trying to transfer all of my speaking plans digitally. And so I think I'm making the best out of social media and being able to record me reading books to children, and just really helping out in any way I can, because I think that pageantry is amazing, but there is life after it, and there's life where you're not competing, and you really have to evaluate what's going on and know that life happens and it's okay to just breathe a little bit, and it's okay to not have a lot on your schedule. But I think just trying to help out in any way I can is helping me with pageants.
Going back to that first pageant, you said it
Mm-hmm.
was humbling, but did you also find yourself? Did you get the pageant bug? Was like
Oh,
what
yes.
like what were the intangibles that you got out of that?
So I definitely think that seeing it, not even competing, I like got bit by the bug so fast. But the one thing that was like the turning point for my mom to actually let me do pageants were the pageants that had no makeup. And so I think that once I started my first competition and kind of like fell on my face a little bit, it was more motivational for me to continue. So um, I have had like, I like to say like two different careers in pageants, because I did them when I was younger, and then I kind of took like a 5 year break, and then I've come back recently. So when I was younger, I actually had a little bit of success. So did like the little sunburst pageant and fell on my face completely. But then I found a Ohio specific pageant. And so it's called Miss American Girl, and I won a prelim for that, and then I won like the Ohio State pageant for that. And then there was a program where I was like Queen of Queens, and so then I won that. So I was a 3 time Miss American Girl title holder, and then I was the Miss American Co-ed Miss Ohio Sweetheart Queen after my Miss American Girl days. And then I went to kind of like the peak of my childhood pageant career. I was the National American Miss Ohio Preteen Queen.
Well, congratulations on that. Wow.
Thank you. Um, and then I took a 5 year break just because.
Well, I mean,
Um,
you basically achieved everything you could in that category. So might as well
yes.
retire and take a couple
Yes.
years off.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
I
Uh,
I'm only 10, but I've reached the top.
but
It's
yeah.
great. And I'm and no
Yeah.
sincerely, I'm being sarcastic. Like that's you
Mhm.
know, most people don't have
Yeah.
a national title when they're 10. So
Yeah. So then I kind of like took that time away to focus on theater and just kind of like be a kid, because it was like that awkward time when you're like like, because the dresses are expensive, and so like I was growing in and out, and I was shrinking, and then my stomach would get bigger, and then I like we could see my shoes through the dress, and then I was just growing. And so I took that time to focus on acting, and was in like a commercial and a feature film, and then I've been in theater for 10 years now, and I've done over 20 shows.
wow.
um, but then my freshman year of high school, I kind of got bit by the pageant bug again. I never like I thought when I was done the first time. And then I started like seeing some old pageant friends pop up on my Instagram, and then I like started watching them more, and then I was like, oh, I want to do this. And then I think the main thing for me with getting back into pageants was the scholarship opportunities, because college is super expensive, and like the reality of that is like, oh my gosh, like I am in high school, like this is something that's happening fast. And so I thought that pageantry would be a great way to get scholarship opportunities and like public speaking opportunities. And so I think that that was played a huge part in like getting my pageant bug back. And so then after my break, I was Miss Teen Ohio International 2019, and then I got top 5 at nationals actually. Um, and then I was the national junior teen captivating queen, and now I'm Miss Ohio High School America. And then we'll see what happens at Miss High School America, but I'm super excited.
Well, it sounds
So
you
that's
you definitely have all the steps to go to the next level.
Yeah,
Do you feel
thank you.
that you're prepared to hold that national title at
Oh,
this
for
age?
sure. Yes. So I believe that right now is a wonderful time for me to have this title. I have done so much with my personal platform of Bold and Brave, which stands for Building Our Lives Drug Free and Building Respect and Values for Everyone. I've got international partners with drug free nonprofits, and I've actually spoken at the United Nations on International Drug Prevention Day. So I believe that I have done a lot and I have tremendous plans to take this title to the next level, and I would just love to have this title kind of as a megaphone for what I want to do. But I think that I have the ability to do this job and do it very well, especially with the grade that I'm in right now. I'm actually on a paid speaking tour, and so next year I am taking half days and doing college classes through my high school, and I'll be a senior. And so I think that since the High School America Queens travel so much, my schedule lined up for next year would just perfectly align with having this title.
Well, one of the comments going back to your early years and doing pageants, you mentioned
Mm-hmm.
doing pageants with no makeup. Now, I wasn't
Yes.
even aware of that. So, can you delve a
Yeah.
little bit more? Do you know more about that? Because I find that to be interesting. Is that a
Mm-hmm.
whole like sub level of pageantry? Because that actually sounds like something that a lot of women that may not be into makeup would really love. That is that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean that I applaud your mom for encouraging you to do that type of pageantry
Mm-hmm.
first, than rushing into doing something where you have to like spend $1 million.
Yeah.
Your mom's really smart by having you do something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's a smart woman. But I think that it was more on the younger side of things because I think that the pageants that I was doing, it was Miss American Co-ed and National American Miss. I think it was like younger than 12. You were, or like when it comes like it was like preteens and below were like no makeup. And I remember at nationals for the Miss American Co-ed system, I'm Puerto Rican, and so I've got really dark features and like dark eyelashes and dark eyebrows. And so I remember like going on before evening gown. This one lady, she was a staff member for the pageant. She came with like this cotton ball, was like scrubbing my face because she didn't believe that those were my eyebrows, and it was just kind of funny. Yeah, it was nuts. And then my eyes were like pink, but it was fine. But I think that it's a great opportunity for like little girls because I think at that age it really is about who they are and not what their moms like want them to dress up and be.
Oh,
And so I,
absolutely. I absolutely agree.
yeah.
So would you
Hmm.
would you encourage your friends, and when you have if you do have a daughter, would you
Hmm.
encourage to do a pageant with no makeup then?
Oh yeah, for sure. I think it's definitely person by person because I think that sometimes when moms are former pageant queens themselves, sometimes they kind of like push their daughter into that, and I've like seen that happen like just in my state. But I never want to be like a mother who forces their child into something that they don't want to do. So I think that if I do have a daughter one day, or if I can influence people to people who are young enough to compete in those kind of pageants, I definitely would if they wanted to. And I think that it's a great way to get transferable skills without growing up too quickly.
Do you feel that even though your life has just begun, that you that you that you feel that pageantry has made a big impact on your life?
Oh, 110%. I definitely don't think that I'd be doing half the things that I've done without pageantry. I know speaking at the United Nations, it wouldn't have happened without a pageant title, and my connection to the Foundation for a Drug Free World. That's how I got to speak there, is how I'm partnered with them. But it all happened because I had a title. And as silly as it is, when you've got a sparkly crown and a sparkly sash, people listen to you and they pay attention to you. But I think that having a profound message like myself with drug prevention and building respect and values for everyone. I think that's also helped. But pageantry is just incredible with the skills that it provides you, the opportunities that it gives you, and the future connections that can be made. It's just incredible, and I am so thankful for pageantry.
It's just the key that you get when you put a crown and sash on,
Yeah.
that older men give people more attention. I
Mm-hmm.
would wish that you wouldn't have to do that if you felt
Mhm.
that you could just dress, without a crown sash and still get the attention and still get some activation or change in the local assembly and Congress. But it's like having the key to the cookie jar that they pay attention to more.
Yeah.
So I mean, so I have not had a guest been able to speak at United Nations. What was that experience?
Oh my
And like
gosh.
what did you draw out of that? Because that's something definitely is a unique experience. Was that
Mhm.
something just thrust upon you, or were you planning that for a long time?
Yeah, so actually, once I got my title and we were developing my platform, my mom was like messaging as many people with similar messages as me as possible. And so my mom just messaged the Foundation for a Drug Free World, and they responded back. And I will never forget this. We were in the Macy's dressing room, and she got a direct message on Instagram inviting me to speak at the United Nations in like 2 weeks in New York City because it was the United Nations headquarters in New York City. And I was just like, huh? Like, what? This is nuts. Like, I'm 16. I'm speaking at the United Nations. What do you mean? And so it kind of just happened really fast. But it just goes to show, like, what can get accomplished when you aren't afraid to, like, ask or not afraid of, like, yeah. So
Well, I mean,
I,
if that's already checked off on your bucket list, what
yeah.
else is on the list of achievements that you want to do? Do you want to have a sit down with one of the presidents, or with the American president, or what's on your bucket list?
So actually coming up, I'm going back to speak at the United Nations if that event doesn't get canceled. And I'm actually getting presented with the Gold Presidential Service Award. So I know statewide, I have been to Legislative Day and I've spoken with my representatives and my senators. One day it would be great to speak with the president, I think. Maybe not right now, but in the future. Um, yes. With that. I think right now he's busy with stuff that's going on, but definitely maybe like in the future, different circumstances, speaking with the president would be amazing to enact a worldwide drug-free trend, especially with teen vaping and stuff going on.
I just wanted to take 1 second from this great interview and talk about our sponsor of the week, Mid Atlantic Video and Photography Productions. No matter if you're planning a wedding, a special event, or you just need an amazing headshot, they are the team to get the job done. You can reach out to them at 443 422 3830. Again, that's 443 422 3830. Or you can just go right to their website at mavpp.com. Now let's get right back to the show and listen to this great interview. I mean, I'm kind of like blown away by all the achievements that you've had. So,
Thank you.
you had a national title at like 11, right? And then you took 5 years.
I I had a state
Yeah,
title.
state title, which is still
Yes,
okay.
multiple.
Okay, right. At like 10, 11, then you took
Mm-hmm.
5 years off. You've been able to talk to and speak at the United Nations. You're getting an
Mm-hmm.
award at the United Nations, even if it doesn't
Mm-hmm.
happen. You're still getting the award. You just might be postponed on the ceremony portion. That's pretty big.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Um, so where do you see like the pad? So I know you're in this system, but do you see that? Are you are you looking like long term? Like, what's the next goal for the next system, or like the goal long term? Because you're still a teen, so there's so like the roadmap is so much further down, and
Mm-hmm. I definitely am all, like I'm blown away by everything that I've done. Sometimes I like feel like I'm Hannah Montana and like I don't even know like what my life is. And so I think that my favorite system right now is the High School America system. So hopefully that goes well. I think since I am kind of close to being in college, which is kind of scary, I think that my pageantry career would probably
Well, do you
end
know
at
what
the
school you want to go to then?
um, it changes weekly. I think right now I'm interested in Butler University or Ohio State University. It really just depends on what scholarships I get, but I'm interested this week in communications,
Okay.
but it changes
Well,
every
I'm
week.
I'm shocked. I would assume it would be the school that has the best acting program.
Yep. So it's it's really funny, and my mom kind of always like tries to get me to do theater, but I am someone who likes a lot of stability, especially from a financial standpoint. I think that acting is a wonderful career and a wonderful choice, but I think for me, the level of the level of instability and how drastically different things are every day is something that I don't necessarily want. I think that
So
there are, yeah.
so are yeah, I'll let you percolate your thought. So are you thinking more like a journalist, and then you still have the opportunity, or or to work on a team like that on the backside, so that it's kind of a permanent job that way? Is that the kind of field that you want to go into, then being an actor and having to be an individual and always fighting for a job? Is that what you're thinking to go?
I think journalism could be a part of it, but I am considering a lot in the field of communications. I think that's why I like communication so much, is because it's really broad and you can do a lot. So some of the things that I've been considering within that field would be maybe being like a news anchor, or being the head of, like, being a public relations manager, or like a social media strategist, or someone who is like leading like a digital campaign, or like leading someone's like communication campaign on like their political journey, something like that. But I think just being able to kind of like have my face in the door, or like have not my face in the door. What? Oh my gosh. Kind of like be there, but also like, um, I don't know, just kind of like report things, or be able to tell a story, but um,
So you
not
still
have
want to. So the goal is still maybe to be in front of the camera in some capacity, but you're willing to be
perhaps
behind the camera if that's more stable. Is that?
for sure. Yeah, I just want to be able to like share messages and have something matter and help people.
Well, I mean, I'll be honest. As a photographer, like, I think
Mhm.
that being in the front of the camera for you personally would be in your best interest. It is the more risky position to go towards because nothing is ever guaranteed.
Yeah.
Um, but one of the things that is really cool today is that you can really build a following,
Mhm.
and have that basically instilled. You know, I assume you have a YouTube channel. If not, then I would encourage you
Yes.
to please really focus on one, and then
Yeah.
you can be as broad or as vague as you want, and really build your narrative the way you
Mhm.
want. So, I mean, if let's just take it this way, if a judge or a parent's coming and cleaning off your face at 10 years old because she thinks you have makeup, I think those are just natural features that you're going to only look better as you get,
Thank
you know.
you. Thank you.
So, that's just you know, but just because you get a job that become a producer or an influencer and you're not in front of the camera isn't a bad thing either. They're both,
Yeah.
you
Mhm.
know. I would just encourage. It's to me the way you talk about acting. It sounds like acting is definitely your passion, or just being in front of the camera. So,
I mean, yeah. I think that theater was a way for me to I don't know. I was raised as an only child, and so I think that the level of attention that I personally need might be a little bit higher than some other people, just because I think that's what I'm used to, just like being raised by a single mom, and just like kind of like her being her one and only. And so I think that also having success in theater, just in my high school, I think has helped me a little bit. But I think that I've always been a person who has something to say, and so for me, I don't like a lot of conflict, and I was considering politics, but that gets a little too messy. So I think that me having something to say, I could potentially be like a news anchor. I think that could be cool. But I definitely am considering that.
Well, hey, I would definitely encourage you if to yeah, United States Congress is messy, but the
hmm
biggest change you can always do is your community. And if you love
Yeah.
Ohio a lot, the biggest thing you can do is representing your own community, especially if
hmm
it's even a local community. And trust me, the biggest drama you probably have is that the road wasn't paved right. So
hmm
I would encourage you, if that's something that you love to do, you should definitely represent your community. So
hmm
I mean, because especially at your age, I don't have friends that ever say, "Oh, I want to run." That that's a very rare thing. So I would encourage you
Yeah.
not to yeah not to turn that
Yeah.
in, because you never know, you might become a superstar like that. I mean,
For sure.
OC, um, she was just a bartender, and now she's I mean, she might be a great senator for
hmm
so you never know.
hmm
Um,
Yeah.
so, you're juggling the idea of going to two different schools. You're
hmm
doing the pageant to get scholarship. What's Are you just focusing on pageants that have scholarship, or would you do a pageant that would you recommend, or would you do personally a pageant that didn't have a scholarship?
I would, and I definitely have before in the past. But I think that pageants are an investment, or they can be sometimes. And so I think that it's important to get out what you put into them, financially, and also just with opportunities and travel and things like that. But I think that definitely what you are promoting, in terms of your personal platform and the pageant's platform, is the most important thing, regardless of it if it there's a scholarship opportunity attached to it. Although that is always nice.
What's the impression going to school and having a title that says high school on it? Do you ever wear it at school? Do you get what's the um, what's the overall like? I know when I was in high school, we would wear our leather jackets and wear our
hmm
football or baseball jersey for our game days. Um, is that the same kind of thing? Do you guys compete, do the same, or what's the vibe with that?
So at my personal high school, I definitely do not wear it at school or like on Fridays or anything like that. But I am on a paid speaking tour, and it's mainly featured for high schools and middle schools to talk about like the dangers of vaping and the good things that can happen if you abstain from drugs. And so I definitely do wear my pageant sash at other high schools when I'm speaking. But it's not something that I like use to accessorize an outfit with at my school.
So your friends think it's like, do you think they think it's cool? Do you have
Um,
like pageant friends, or you have friends that are not pageant um uh
yeah, so I think
excess
I know what you're
people?
saying.
Yeah, yeah.
So I definitely have pageant friends and like school friends and theater friends. But everyone I tell about it, they're like always super cool. And I know like my basement is kind of like my like pageant room kind of thing. And I've got like a dress rack and all this stuff. And I've got some like awards and stuff in the corner. I feel like it's like my mom's little shrine to me, but it's funny. But I definitely think that my personal friends are like really accepting, and they always like hype me up, and they think it's really cool. But I know I have it like featured on my Instagrams and stuff, but I feel like I'm kind of like Hannah Montana a little bit in the fact that I like don't like talk about it too much within like my personal life. Not because I'm like embarrassed about it by any means, because I love pageantry and love everything, and I'm so proud and so blessed to have a title. But I think that more importantly, I talk about what I'm doing, just like with like my speaking opportunities and stuff, because I think that my message of being drug free and building respect and values for everyone is more important than me wearing a title.
So I guess I'm getting the vibe that you like to have like I'm to me it's like Superman. Clark Kent has his
Yes.
normal identity, and then he has Superman as his
Mm-hmm.
Superman. So is that how you feel like when you put your sash on? That's your go to work. Like I
Kind
need
of,
to.
yeah.
Do you feel is that does that give you like an air of confidence when you put it on? Is it like a is that like a bulletproof vest virtually that makes you feel confident to go out in the world and be able to talk to you know maybe
I
a
think so.
higher important person and be listened to?
I mean, yeah, I definitely think that it gives me a little bit of an edge because I feel like more people are listening. And so that's always good, especially when you've got an important message.
I just wanted to take one extra second and talk about our sponsor of the week, Mid Atlantic Video and Photography Production. No matter if you're planning a wedding and you need a wedding videographer, you're doing a music video, or doing a commercial, they are the team to get the job done. You can reach out to them at 443 422 3830. Again, that's 443 422 3830. Or you can go right to their website at mavpp.com. Now let's get right back to this great interview. Okay, so this is the part of the show where I give Jade the opportunity to really talk about anything that we haven't talked about. So, what did we not go over that's important that you would like to emphasize before we call it a day?
Okay, so I would just love to first touch on the fact that I'm a part of a youth council, and it's called the Ohio Youth Led Prevention Network. So it's a statewide prevention youth council. It's about a dozen high school students from all across our state who are very active in making change. And so that's a group I'm involved with that definitely gives me a lot of opportunities to make governmental change. And so that is how I've been able to speak at my state house several times to legislators and representatives. And I've actually been presented with two resolutions, one from the Senate and one from the House of Representatives. So that was really
Congratulations.
cool. Thank you.
Now,
Um,
is that giving you the opportunity to actually visit the actual Senate and the House in your local state and actually see the?
yes, it's
That's
so
great.
pretty and it's so cool.
Would you encourage other young people to go to their state house and actually see um, the Senate and the House in actual live lawmaking?
For sure. I definitely think it's so important for young people to start getting involved a lot earlier, especially within governmental things. I think that seeing things happening and decisions that are being made for you, um, I think it's really important for young people to see what that looks like.
Do you understand how laws are made now more easily that you've actually witnessed it and actually happening and how difficult it is?
Yeah, I think so. I think that just like the whole process of being in there was just like a really cool learning experience, and it was just amazing. But it's like it's so different than how like people typically talk, because I feel like it's all this like fancy like business writing and stuff. But it makes sense. It's really cool.
So what else is there anything else that we didn't cover that you'd like? I know you wanted to talk about your mission, which is preventing people from vaping.
Yes.
So from what I've been aware is that it's just recently that they've really found out that vaping really destroys your lungs. Is there
Hmm.
anything else that vaping does that's worse than smoking?
So my whole platform is drug prevention as a whole, but I think vaping is a huge aspect of it. So something that I've been working in prevention groups is like really educating my peers. And so something that I think that a lot of people don't know is one like Juul pod is equivalent to 3 to 4 packs of cigarettes. I know a lot of people only think it's one. There's also a chemical in there called formaldehyde, and it's really it's like what they use to like preserve dead bodies, and like there's car battery acid, and
So
there's just
it's actually the same exact. It's not like a derivative of phenom. It's actually the same stuff that they put in you when you're dead. Wow, that's scary.
yeah. And it's like I think that there's like people think it's just flavoring, and like flavoring is such a small part of it, and I think that you never truly know what you're putting in your body. But I think that if you have built up respect and values for yourself, you shouldn't be at a point where you need to um, rely on a substance to give you a buzz or make you feel better. I think what and this is what I talked about at the UN a little bit about, was I believe that teens are using because they want to feel better or they don't want to feel anything at all. And so I think that once you address the um, mental health aspect of things, and when people really respect and value themselves, they will make better decisions. And also, I think that the youth perspective needs to be told a little bit more.
Well, this is a good opportunity, so I'm going to ask you a
Yeah.
couple hard questions. One, do you
Okay.
feel that people that are vaping more the just the tobacco or the colored flavors, or are they doing more weed vaping?
So I think it's a good mix of both. I think that it's all I think that it's getting intermingled a lot more than people think it is. So there are things called dab pens, and that's kind of like vaping weed. And so it's THC oil that's put into like a little cartridge, and then it's kind of like vaporized through there. I think that's kind of common, but I think the most common is definitely like the Juuls, which is like mainly it's advertised with the flavors and like the pods. But I think the newest thing is these puff bars, because they're bright colored, but they're the same shape as a Juul, so people like know what it is, but there's a lot more flavors. And so I think that as a tobacco industry and an e-cigarette industry, they should be ashamed of how they're advertising, because no 35-year-old man who's trying to kick his smoking habit is going to pick up a bright pink puff bar. I think that's a direct advertising slant towards kids, and I think that big industries need to be put down. I know that Juul is kind of starting to get some backlash, and they are banning flavors. But I think that once you bring one down, you've got a whole group of kids that's hooked. And so then another company comes in its place, like these puff bars. And so I think that people really need to get good, like gas station attendants who won't just like give a kid something for a sale. They should care about kids' well-being. And I know it's hard because it could be just like a gas station attendant, but I think just having people follow the rules and like checking for an ID and things like that need to happen, because it's creating such a huge problem.
I am absolutely impressed. You said you're 16,
Thank you. Yes, I'm
and
16.
you realize and understand that um, that the derivative of how they're manipulating the market on that. That's one of the
Hmm.
reasons why in the 80s they banned cartoons. You can't have
Yes.
the camo the Mr.
Yeah, the camel.
Camel. Yeah, I mean, that
Hmm.
word's just not coming out. So, for you to recognize that and actually be able to explain it in an elegant way, that you know clearly you have a bright future on your head. So,
Thank you.
um, how do you okay? So if you're talking to your friends and younger friends,
Hmm.
younger teens, what's okay? So if they're listening to this, what's the
Hmm.
way you'd break it down? Okay, you're at a party or you're
Hmm.
outside school. How do you confront them without being forceful and ask them to consider, or and not giving them a little idea of understanding that it's worse than smoking. It'd be actually better if they would smoke.
I think you have to like use their language, and so I think like I've definitely like seen it happen in the bathroom, and I've been like, "Girl, do you know what's in there?" And then she's like, "No, what's in it?" And I like kind of like take that moment, and I'm like, "The stuff that preserves dead bodies is the equivalent to this," and like stuff like that. And I'm like, "Girl, you can do so much better. Like, why are you treating your body like this?" So I think you definitely have to
So
come
you would,
at it
so
from
a
the
young
heart of
kid,
love.
so most young kids in your generation understand what formaldehyde is, and so that's not like too beyond them. So are
Mm-hmm.
you recommending um kids to tell kids that then?
I think that I know I've been pretty successful with I always try to share as many facts on Instagram as I
Mm-hmm.
can. So I try to utilize the interactive like poll sticker, and I always try to like see who knew it and who didn't. So I think that spreading facts in any way you can is a great way to like help out peers, because we're in a time where we're literally like history is repeating itself. Like stock market crash, there's an like a worldwide pandemic going around with this sickness. And so I like people realize that because it's the same year, it's like the 20s. But I think that the fact that my generation thinks it's stupid to smoke cigarettes, but then they're vaping, I think that they are failing to realize that it's the same thing happening again. Um,
Do
and
you
so,
do
yeah,
you do you think that do do you think that your generation is just negligent and they just aren't willing, like, oh, they're just the young kids, the other generation, we smoked pot or we smoked cigarettes, so that
yeah.
you know is that you know
I
it's just what it
think
happens, or do you think that you guys
I
generation could
think
do better, is what I'm trying to say.
I think that we are a generation that is used to instant gratification because we are the generation that's got all the technology and we've got literally everything at our fingertips in a matter of seconds. And so I think that sometimes teenagers being teenagers, they act without thinking. And so some like a lot of times you do something in the moment and you don't think about the consequences. Typical teenage behavior. But I think that if this was people were educated more about what's in it before it gets to this point, I think we need to start talking about it more. And so I think that a lot of times school administrations don't want to talk about it because they don't want, or they don't want to educate their students because they don't want to believe that it's happening, because they don't want to believe that their school has that problem. I know that with my paid speaking tour I'm on, he the like organizer of that whole like organization that I'm with, Michael De Leon with Steered Straight. He went into this Catholic private high school and was like, "Hey, can I do this presentation for your kids?" And then the principal or whatever was like, "This is a Catholic school. Our kids don't do drugs." And I was like, "Oh, that's like the worst school. I feel like that has like a drug problem," because I just feel like you need to start talking about it because ignoring the problem isn't going to make it go away.
The more you talk about it, the less it's not an issue, and more.
Yeah.
Right, exactly. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm Catholic, and I think that my friends were more prone to get a girl pregnant because
Mm-hmm.
they didn't know anything about that.
Exactly.
So I think that you knowing that already puts you in a better
Mm-hmm.
footing. And I would encourage you definitely to have that mindset, because
Mm-hmm.
talking about anything that's hard is definitely better than just ignoring it, because if you
Exactly.
don't talk about it, it just festers, and it's just like a wound. If you keep on if you
Yeah.
you know so preventive care is basically is the main the goal behind that, I see.
Yeah.
um I Here's a question I think would be really good to ask you. So
Mm-hmm.
sometimes parents aren't very good at like reading things, so because kids are really good at hiding stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So what's your suggestion to a parent that may not know that their kid is vaping or smoking, like what do you think you should recommend them looking at and keep eye out for? Because we can be really secretive when it comes to hiding stuff
Yeah.
from our parents. So is there what
Mhm.
do you recommend for parents to look out? Because
I
these vape
mhm.
pens are so small now, you know.
Yeah, I definitely think it's super important to, one, before everything, have the parent educate themselves, educate them on the newest devices, like what they look like, what they cost, what like kind of like what they smell like. I know that's probably like out of the realm of like what you can find on Google, but just anything, education about this topic is so important, especially from a parent's perspective. I know like the side effects, like mood swings, intense rage, things like that. I think that also the
And those
parents
are
need
all
to
things
be
that
more.
are directly
Yeah.
coordinated. Wow. Okay.
Yes, I definitely think that also having a a parent monitor their child's social media is crucial. I think that photos can be super telling, and this kind of correlates with like the type of friends that they have and the company they keep. I think that's also really important. Um, you can always use like a drug test. I think there are nicotine tests now and like THC tests. I think there are like nicotine or THC wipes that you can order on Amazon. You can like test your child's room to see if they have been, or their bathroom, or things like that.
And that will
If
work.
you
And
really,
will that work with a
mhm.
with the vapes?
Yes, so nicotine is in all vape products,
Well,
so that
but I
yeah,
didn't know. I don't smoke of any kind, so
yeah.
this is not something. So I come off as very naive one. So
Oh,
even
sorry.
though no, I'm trying. So you're still going to have that smoke residue is I guess and it's
Yes.
gonna lay on objects. Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I think the big thing is like teenagers are a good um, source for this because like of the wipes and how it like lingers. I think that no child is like cleaning their room 24/7. So as
No.
long as it's like, as long as they like, yeah. So I think that.
I think I think that's the tip that we should
Mhm.
recommend because one, it doesn't take, you're not really invading their privacy, but
Yeah.
you know, it's the parent's house, so she can do
Mhm.
whatever she wants, and that's a way
Yeah, for sure.
definitely for yeah. So hey,
Mhm.
look, if you're not really good with the social media thing, so
Mhm.
there are wipes that you can prove that there is, and if you don't personally smoke, then you know, oh, okay, well they're there, perfect,
Yeah.
okay,
But I also definitely think. Oh my goodness, I just had it. Ah.
it's okay.
Oh, I think having a parent talk about things from an early age
Oh yeah,
is
absolutely.
super important. And so always having, it's okay to make mistakes, but know that like teaching kids that like to know their worth and to know their value um, is super important. But also to like not be afraid to like talk about like weed with your child or to talk about vaping with your child, but like letting them know that like they just want them to be safe and how like these are not safe products and things like that. So just talking can do so much.
Well, Jade, is there anything else before we call it a day?
I just would like to say if you want to keep in contact with me, or anyone listening, my Instagram is at Miss Ohio High. My website is jadeeilers.com, JADEEILERS.com. And my platform is Bold and Brave, building our lives drug free and building respect and values for everyone.
And
Thank you
it's
so much for having me.
Oh no, it's not. It's my pleasure for you to come on my show, and I'm so thankful that your mom gave me the opportunity to speak with you today, and for all of our listeners that like myself that may have a reading disability or just a really bad speller, all of her information will be in the bio below, with all the details. And I would definitely. It sounds like she's definitely someone we need to keep her eye on, and I can see you doing really well. So,
Thank
um,
you.
please stay safe. Don't get sick.
Yeah, me too.
Wash hands,
Hmm.
and I hope everything goes well in June. And
Thank you.
please keep us up to date.
I
We'd
will.
love to talk to a national title holder. So please, I would
Oh.
I would I would love it if your national director gives me the permission. I'd love to talk to you and talk about your goals for the year.
For sure.
So Jade, thank you so much for coming on the show. We really appreciate your time. And as I mentioned in the open, absolutely blown away. Congratulations on the opportunity to speak at the United Nations at the age of 16. And if you're already talking to the United Nations, I hope you get the opportunity to speak to Congress and also the president one day too. And hope your platform of preventing people from vaping is taken seriously and pushed through Congress. And I hope you can save a lot of people's lives because of it. And I hope everyone is really motivated and really impressed by you as much as I have. Remember, this show always drops on Thursday afternoon. So please like us, follow us, and give us a thumbs up, thumbs down, and comment on our video on both iTunes and on YouTube. And as always, please stay tuned.